Dear students, let us now revise the lesson A Sunny Morning. Let us look into its summary and important questions. A Sunny Morning is a one act play by Serafin and Joaquin Alvarez Quintero, brothers, and celebrated Spanish playwrights of the early 20th century. So, this is a one act play, means there is only one act in that. There are no many acts. The story is centered on two old lovers, now in their 70s, meeting at a park and trying to recall their romantic past. So, this is a story between two lovers. Okay, they are very old and they are just recalling their past, how they lived their past life with romance. The man is Don Gonzalo and the lady is Donna Laura. Okay. Meeting of Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura, background and setting. The autumn season in the background presents the baldness of life coinciding with the entry of two key characters in the play, Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura. So in the old age, you can is compared to autumn. The season also is corresponding to the age of these two couples. This couple, sorry, not two couples, this couple, who have also lost their prime youth and attraction. Like the season, as the season change, the autumn season there is no much beauty as the spring season. Okay, this age can be compared to the old age. There is no much youth and attraction at that age. They meet at the park, but they are not able to identify each other at the beginning. Though they are meeting at each other, they are not able to recognize each other. When you reach old age, you are not able to recognize your own home people, your own friends. Don Gonzalo angers Donna Laura as he scares away the birds she was feeding. Donna picks up a verbal combat, attacking him with a barrage of words. So Laura is feeding some birds there, and Don Gonzalo is not happy with this act of Donna Laura. That is why he scolds her. He retorts, though, gives up soon and offers her a pinch of snuff and reconciles with her. After that, what happens? First he scolds, after that he gives her a pinch of snuff to receive. Then after that they become alright. When Don Gonzalo reads from Campomore's 20 years pass, he returns, but feel that they were the lovers in the past, but they choose to pretend to hide their identities. Don Gonzalo tells Laura that he was Gonzalo's cousin, and she says that she heard about Donna Laura's story through her friends. So Don Gonzalo tells her that he was Gonzalo's cousin and also that he had heard about Laura. Each of them, though they know each other, they pretend. Laura Lorento lived at Marcela in Valencia. She was known as the Silver Maiden in her locality, so all were calling her with that name. Gonzalo would pass by on horseback every morning down the rose path under her window and would toss up to her balcony a bouquet of flowers. So he used to throw every day, pass through her window and throw into her balcony a bouquet of flowers. Later in the afternoon, he would return by the same path and catch the bouquet of flowers she would toss him. So afternoon, she used to throw the bouquet of flowers to him and he used to catch. Laura's parents wanted to get her married to a merchant. A duel followed and the merchant was badly wounded by Gonzalo. So Laura's parent wanted her to give in marriage with a merchant, but there was a duet and merchant was badly wounded by Gonzalo. So Gonzalo won in the duet, the fight between two people. He fled away fearing the consequences. Laura waited for days and months and not hearing from him for long, she left her home one afternoon and went to the beach. So she thought that Gonzalo is no more. Okay. While she was engrossed in his thoughts, she was washed away by the waves. So waves come and wash away Laura because she is in deep thinking of Gonzalo that waves come and wash away. Gonzalo loved her intensely too. After injuring the merchant seriously, fearing the consequences, he took refuge in Seville and Madrid. He wrote many letters to her, but they were intercepted by her parents. So now Gonzalo is another side and Laura is in another side. But both of them love each other. And Gonzalo writes to her letters, but these letters are reached to the parents. As there was no reply in despair, he joined the army and met his death in Africa. Conclusions. 2 years later, Laura married someone and settled down in her life. Similarly, Gonzalo, disappointed over his lost love, 3 months later married a ballet dancer and settled down in Paris. So both of them go and marry each other. So they think that their lovers will not meet once again. So go and marry others. Though they were separated in their hearts, their yearning for the romantic love continued. When they meet in the park after nearly 50 years, both of them were able to recall their intense romantic affair. Although they came to know about each other in reality, they did not want to reveal, for they had lost their charming youth. Now there was no youth, so they did not want to reveal their identity. Okay, now let us look into the questions, important questions that had been asked for earlier examinations. What account does Don Gonzalo give Donna Laura about his cousin's life after the duel? Don Gonzalo says his cousin had hid himself for a few days and later fled and took refuge in Gonzalo's house. As he expected danger, he first went to Seville and later came to Madrid. He wrote many letters to Laura, but they were intercepted by her parents and so no reply came back. He believed that his love was lost for him and in despair he joined the army and went to Africa and met a glorious death. In a trench holding the flag of Spain and uttering the name of his beloved Laura. Thus Don Gonzalo says his cousin met with a glorious death. So I am not going to explain to you, already has been explained the summary. I hope you are understanding. Okay. A Sunny Morning portrays the wit and humor through Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura's spontaneous reactions. Explain. So what a wit and humor. What wit is there? What is there to laugh in this lesson? How much it is focusing on the happy moments. Don Laura and Don Gonzalo meet as strangers in a park in Madrid. They were ardent lovers in their youth and were separated by fate. Gonzalo's usual bench in the park was occupied by 3 priests. He scares away the pigeons Donna Laura was feeding. Laura was annoyed at this behavior of Gonzalo. Gonzalo reconciles and shares the bench with her. Gonzalo brushes the dust from his shoes with his handkerchief. Laura criticizes his manner and his possessiveness of the bench. Gonzalo puts on, all this is very, very funny. Gonzalo puts on an enormous pair of glasses, takes from his pocket a reading glass and adjusts both and opens his book. Laura taunts him that she thought he was taking out a telescope. Gonzalo challenges her to read. Laura fools Gonzalo as she knows every word by heart. She comments on his hunting habits, that he would only kill time. When Gonzalo says that he could show a wild boar's head in his study, Laura says that she would show him a tiger's skin in her boudoir. Don Gonzalo takes but a pinch of snuff and offers it to Laura. Both take the snuff and sneeze alternatively 3 times each. Snuff brings peace between them. So that is what the funny thing, or the thing that can be laughed, or the funny moments or the wit and humor that is there in the poem. Next question. What fictitious story did Gonzalo spin about himself to hide his true identity? What story he creates? Okay, now fictional story maybe he creates to hide his identity. Don Gonzalo spins a fictitious story that the gallant lover was Gonzalo's cousin who was in love with the silver maiden Laura Lorento in his locality. The gallant lover was involved in a duel with a merchant who was to marry the Silver Maiden. The gallant young lover took refuge in Gonzalo's house of the consequences of the duel, as the merchant was a highly regarded person. From Gonzalo's house, he went to Seville, then to Madrid. He wrote several letters to Laura, which were intercepted by her parents, and so he did not get any reply from her. In despair, believing that his love was lost to him forever, he joined the army, went to Africa, and there in a trench he met a glorious death. Grasping the flag of Spain and whispering the name of the beloved Laura. Next question. How do Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura accuse each other at the beginning of the play, A Sunny Morning? On a sunny autumn morning in the park in Madrid, Don Laura is feeding pigeons. Don Gonzalo enters and finds his usual bench occupied by 3 priests, and as there are no vacant benches, he resigns himself to share the bench with Donna Laura. Gonzalo scares away the birds, and when Laura complains, he is irritated and says it is a public park. Donna Laura retorts back and asks him why he was complaining that the priest had occupied his bench. Gonzalo brushes the dust from his shoes with his handkerchief. Laura criticizes his action. He replies not to interfere with him and puts on his enormous pair of glasses, reading glass and opens his book. Reading glass and opens his book. Laura sarcastically says that he has a very keen eyesight. Gonzalo says evidently, as every Sunday he took his gun and dog and went to one of his estates near Aravaca and killed time. Laura said that he could only kill time. Thus they keep accusing each other. So keep accusing means you are going on blaming or finding mistakes of one another. Next question. Bring out the instances from the play A Sunny Morning to justify it as a blend of romance and comedy. A Sunny Morning is one-act play full of humor and romantic interludes. Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo meet accidentally in a park. Donna Laura is feeding pigeons. Don Gonzalo sees that his usual bench in the park is occupied by 3 priests. He scares away the birds and Donna Laura becomes angry. Don Gonzalo waits for the priest to leave as he wanted his bench all for himself. When he sees no sign of them leaving, he resigns himself and sits on the bench with Donna Laura. Now Donna Laura accuses him that she should have asked for permission. Gonzalo replies that the park was a public property. He uses his handkerchief as a shoe brush, and Laura criticizes his action. He takes out of his enormous pair of reading glass and adjusts both and opens his book. Laura comments that the thought he was taking out a telescope, that she thought that he is taking a telescope. Gonzalo says his eyesight is keen, and every Sunday he takes his gun and dog to one of his estates near Aravaca and kills time. Laura argues that he kills time, that is all he could kill. Gonzalo takes out of his snuff box and offers Laura a pinch of snuff, and the stuff makes peace between them. Okay. Gonzalo reveals that he was a native of Valencia. Laura is startled. Both of them spin fictitious stories. Gonzalo says his cousin was in love with Laura Lorento, known as the Silver Maiden, in her locality, and Laura says it was her friend who was in love with Gonzalo's cousin. Laura says fate was curious as they had met by chance and were discussing the romance of old friends, and they were conversing as if they themselves were old friends. Laura asks him if he would come the next day. Gonzalo replies that he would certainly come if it was a sunny morning. and he would not scare away the birds and would bring a few breadcrumbs. Laura asks Gonzalo if he would go to his bench. Gonzalo says he would come to her bench. Laura replies that the bench was at his disposal. They smile once more and go to their places. Next question. Narrate how, according to Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo, the sad love affair of her friend and his cousin ended. Don Laura and Don Gonzalo spin fictitious stories. Don Gonzalo, what is fictitious means? Imaginary stories. Don Gonzalo says that the gallant lover in the locality Valencia was none other than his cousin who took refuge in his house, fearful of the consequences of his duel with the merchant. He ran away to Seville and then to Madrid. He wrote Laura many letters which were interrupted or intercepted by her parents. Believing his love lost to him forever, he joined the army, went to Africa, and there, in a trench, met a glorious death, grasping the flag of Spain and whispering the name of his beloved Laura. Donna Laura said that her friend avoided news for days, months, a year, and then sat upon a rock, her gazes fixed upon the horizon. The waves rose with a boom and swept away out of the sea. Okay, next question. Narrate how, according to Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo, the sad love affair of her friend and cousin ended. As per Gonzalo, his cousin was very much in love with Laura's friend and used to pass on horseback every morning down the rose path under her window and used to toss up to our balcony a bouquet of flowers. Laura's friend, on her part, used to catch those flowers. In the afternoon, the cousin would return by the same path and catch that bouquet which she used to toss back. He also used to stand in the night under the balcony listening to her singing. He later had a duel with the merchant who was to marry her and wounded him and had to run away. How does Don Gonzalo try to hide his identity? Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura spin fictitious stories because they think that it was not a good idea to reveal their identity at old age. Moreover, Donna Laura married subsequently and Gonzalo was suffering from gout. Thinking all this, they decided to hide their feelings for each other and wanted to spend their remaining life with the sweet memories of the past. Next question. How effectively does Gonzalo narrate the story of his cousin's love for Laura's friend? So Gonzalo, pretending that he was talking about his cousin and his love for Laura's friend, tells Laura about the visits in her night under the window of the villa. Marcella, he explains the fight with the merchant who was to marry Laura's friend and his escape to Africa after wounding the merchant. His letters to his lady love were perhaps intercepted by parents and destroyed, thus not letting her know about him. In this way, through the story of his cousin's love for Laura's friend, he narrates his own story of unfulfilled love for Laura. Next question. Everything is fair in love and war. How do you substantiate this statement relating to the attitudes of Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo in the play A Sunny Morning? So the answer is Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo were deeply in love when they were young. They used to meet each other regularly in the night under the window of Laura's villa called Marcella near Valencia. Unfortunately, Laura's parents decide to marry her to a merchant. And one night, when Gonzalo goes to meet Laura, the merchant comes there unexpectedly and blames and humiliates Gonzalo. A fight ensues between the merchant and Gonzalo, and the merchant gets badly wounded. Gonzalo runs away to Africa. Gonzalo writes many letters to Laura, but he never gets any reply. Then he realizes that he had lost her love. But she was waiting for Gonzalo's return, and she did not get to read his letters because her parents had intercepted and destroyed them. She waited for Gonzalo to return in vain, and after 2 years married the merchant. After many years, they meet in their old age in a park at Madrid. Gonzalo was suffering from gout and his eyesight was poor. They have been coming to the same park without running into each other. One day, Gonzalo disturbs Laura while she was feeding pigeons. Once they get to talking with each other, they realize their two identities but refrain from revealing to each other. In this way, it is ironic that even though they are eager to meet each other, they pretend to be somebody else and do not disclose. Eager to meet each other, they pretend to be somebody else and do not disclose. They are happy with the sweet memories only. We, the readers, could guess it. Okay, we have discussed some main important question answers. Go through them slowly and try to understand. The lesson already been explained to you. Hope you understand these question answers and prepare yourselves for the examination.